Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Gaseous Form. Yeah, I imagined you turn into gas, not inflate like a balloon.
My form is filled with gas. I'm a
Yeah.
gaseous form.
Okay.
What can I say? The third level transmutation spell from the player's handbook takes an action to cast. It's a sorcerer, warlock, wizard spell. It requires verbal, somatic, material components, a bit of gauze, and a wisp of smoke. Which, how one gets a wisp of smoke, always an interesting question. You just have that. You need that. It's part of the material components for this. You have to be holding a wisp of smoke. Concentration up to an hour. You transform a willing creature you touch, along with everything it's wearing and carrying, into a misty cloud for the duration. The spell ends if the creature drops to 0 hit points. An incorporeal creature isn't affected, so you can't make something kind of gaseous twice. While in the form, the target's only method of movement is a flying speed of 10 feet, which is really, really slow. The target can enter and occupy the space of another creature. The target has resistance to non-magical damage, has advantage on strength, dex, and con saving throws. The target can pass through small holes, narrow openings, and even mere cracks. Which, listen, designers, this comes a point when you're linguistically overkilling it. Anyway, so it treats liquids as though they were solid surfaces. The target can't fall and remains hovering in the air, even when stunned or otherwise incapacitated. While you drew in the form of a misty cloud, the target can't make or manipulate objects. Can't talk, not make, can't talk or manipulate objects, and any objects it is carrying or holding can't be dropped, used, or otherwise interacted with. Target can't attack or cast spells. All of this is to say you become an amorphous floating cloud with a speed of 10 feet for the duration of an hour.
Yeah, this is one of those that seems like a lot more useful before you use it.
I think
Or
Gaseous
like one of those
Form.
superpowers, if you actually had it, you could impress your friends.
Well, I
But
mean, it's
even
also really
then,
good at being like a bank robber, right?
well, if you've got multiple uses, sure.
You only have one, it's kind of a one-way ticket.
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately why I like Gaseous Form a lot more than like Etherealness. I like Gaseous Form because it lets you it gives you a form, a very slow moving form for a limited duration. An hour isn't like the longest in the world. That lets you sort of float around and engage with space in a way that is close to walking through walls. The trade-off is you have to like become corporeal again to interface with stuff, and
Yeah.
things can see the mist that's just like this amorphous shape of mist floating down the corridor and going under doors and stuff, right? You're not invisible. You're
Right.
still a tangible thing that can be poked and stabbed and attacked if they really want to. But at the same
Well,
time, it
they
is sort of
almost
an
certainly
innocuous
will want
infiltration
to.
tool. Maybe. When's the last time you saw an eerie cloud floating across the way and decided to run out and poke it? I don't know.
Well, I didn't see that. And then also, if I live in a world where gaseous form exists, I'm absolutely going to poke it.
Yeah, that is ultimately a lot of the failings of these infiltration kind of spells is knowledge of a spell's kind of existence makes countermeasures for it feel like they should be expected and makes things like gaseous form be like, well, in our world, there's no shot goblins would ever poke at the misty floating cloud. They'd be like, what's that mist just rolling over there? Weird. Okay, and go back to their daily lives a lot of the time. In the fantasy world, they might go, it's a guy very clearly using gaseous form, stab it, and it's a lot less practical in that instance. So I think you're gonna
I
want to
mean,
get like a read on your
if
DM.
I saw it coming under my garage door, I would know. In my first thought, oh, that's a vampire. So
Oh,
I
I
mean,
love.
all I'm saying is this particular effect is recognizable.
Sure, it is very. It is like it's absolutely the Bram Stoker's Dracula visage of the vampire that poops into mist and turns into bats and stuff. Like this
Yeah.
is within that clear realm. I as much as we're talking about like you poke and stab at it, you personally, Bob, are sure
I
that
run away
vampires are
from it.
exist if you were to see it. If it snuck into your garage, you'd be like, I have to shoot it. I must get the garlic out. I think in the world of D&D, you can probably do some fun stuff with this. I think this pairs really well with fun stuff like Fog Cloud, where someone creates a fog cloud and then like a little bit of it just kind of like it is someone in gaseous form. That's pretty cute. You can do some neat things, I think, with infiltrating, even outside of like if you're knowing you're not invisible, having a way to get under a door without breaking the door, without breaking and entering. This is a really easy on ramp for a mystery. This is a really easy on ramp for theft. This is a really easy part of a lot of bigger scope engage missions. I really think that the speed duration hampers it more than it needs to. I think the spell could be easily reworked to be a much cooler and more flexible tool. That being said, for concentration an hour and the slow speed and the little hiccups that come around with it, I find it in practice a lot harder to use than I'd like, and I find that for the most part people tend to steer away from it because of how clunky it can feel to cast.
Whoa. So how is the speed hampering it? You got an hour duration. If you're robbing a bank, how fast do you need to be going under these doors?
Bob, I would like to ask you a question. If you are part of a group of 5 bank robbers, how fast do you need to be going and robbing that bank? Is it a particularly slow ordeal? Are bank robberies known for being long, drawn out, thought out plans happening over the course of 45 minutes?
No, but it's 10 feet around. And all you need it for is to breach the defenses, the walls and whatnot. That's and then like you said before, you can't do anything while you're in the cloud. One round, you're under the door. You remorph or coalesce or whatever you call it.
I then find I agree that's the best use case for it. I then immediately struggle because spells like Pass Wall and Misty Step just do that better, right? If you can see into the room through like a window or something, through a locked door, a second level spell definitely just does this effect better than this. If that's what you're intending to use it for, there are going to be a lot of lower level effects, or at least same level effects that are sort of side grades to this at that specific use case, which means you need to want the longer duration. You're going to need to want the flying around, sort of exploring with it, etherealness kind of effect to get juice out of it, for it to really be a spectacular, superb new tool you have access to. And I just don't think that is realistically happening a lot of the time. I think a lot of the time this will be this is a way that I can pass through this wall. This is a way I can get through under that crack of the door. This is a way I can sneak into the vault. Then I grab the stuff, turn back into it, and vault, get out. You could probably do that with other cheaper, lower level stuff. You could probably find other ways to break through those defenses that don't need you to spend 2/3 level spell slots. And that's the reality of Gaseous Form, I think.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is I don't think the speed hampers it as much as like the duration is overkill.
I mean, I think all those things come together to say, if you had like a 30-foot fly speed still and could actually use this as a scouting tool, I'd be a lot more about it. If you could readily run into a danger, running with your regular speed, right, dashing around a dungeon to sort of scope things out and be like, oh crap, there's a monster there, I gotta turn around and bail. If you run into a monster with this thing, you're just gonna die, right? Like it's gonna just go at you and start whacking the crap out of the mist until it goes away, or you turn it off and then you're just your regular form again and you can't necessarily get back out. And that's a really big issue, which makes it as a scouting tool a lot more suspect because danger becomes a lot harder to get out of. That's something that Ethereal is really good at, right? Is you're not even there.
I don't think Gaseous Form is for that.
And I think that with the hour-long duration, that makes it feel like that's what it's supposed to be used for. I think a lot of the moving parts here make it seem like it's supposed to be, especially with how much they talk about the resistances, how much they talk about like what you can and can't go through, being able to, you can't ever fall, you can always float around and fly about spaces, right? It seems like it's supposed to be a tool geared at exploration. And like you said, that's not really what it does. That's not really what it's good for. And I think that's largely the spell's disservice.
No, even with resistances, you're very, very vulnerable while in this form and slow. You can't even run away. I mean, no, God, if this was an exploration tool, that would be the most boring spell in the world. Yeah. Just going that slowly, room to room.
And then it's ultimately like no one ever takes this. I think I've seen this cast ones of times at the table. They were for we go underneath the door and do this sneaky little infiltration thing, and it was fine there. At the same time, there was a window around the corner that like if they could got on the wall outside, they can Misty Step in, and that would have been cheaper. There are ways around this problem in D&D. This is a cool way around this problem. I can envision characters that want to do this like as part of their fantasy. Normally those are like rogues and stuff though, and rogues and stuff don't want to be if they have access to 3rd level spells, they don't want to be spending them on this kind of low impact effect.
So I feel like we're gonna get comments. What else could you use this for? All I'm thinking is infiltration. Like
espionage, right? Assuming we're in a world where the creatures don't necessarily always assume the inconspicuous cloud of floating vapors is a hostile gaseous form creature. This could just be on a misty night, you fitting in with the surroundings and listening in on something. Whenever the text of the spell lets you go through narrow spaces, when the text of the spell gives you a small fly speed and lets you sort of navigate around some stuff, it seems like it's best to be for infiltration. It seems like it's aimed at both exploration, flying around a space, and infiltration, going through spaces you're not supposed to be. I just don't think it does it that well.
I mean, even as I'm thinking, all right, well, at least you can fly. That's something, but fly is also a third level spell.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is particularly egregious on warlocks. There's no upscaling. And sorcerer and wizards definitely have better third level spells to get than this. I think this probably could be a second level spell, and I'd be a lot more about it. I think that's a cool new way to access and interface with the world. If this is a second level spell with a duration of like a minute or something, I'm way more about that thing. Because then it's clear that this is what it's supposed to do. You can go through 2 doors as opposed to 1. You can get slightly beyond what the reach of a Misty Step could if you can't get to the spot you need a Misty Step through. Those are all little upsides the spell has. Not really worth a third level spell cast upsides, but meaningful ones.
Yeah. All right, you got a rating?
I think this is I mean it's pretty bad. I think this is a 2. I don't see it getting cast that often. I think I like the fantasy a lot personally. I don't think that this does its job well enough and in a impactful enough way that it justifies its slot. I think you can probably, if this were cheaper, I'd be more about it. If this had better means of doing the exploration thing, I'd be really annoyed with it eventually because I'd be like, oh my god, they shouldn't Gaseous Form through the dungeon again. That's so annoying. It's like the familiar thing. But where it stands now, it's just not that efficient at doing any of the things that it's trying to do, and I don't think you need it. I think you can probably get some decent use out of it. I think players can put this on their sheet with the expressed goal of getting places they're not supposed to be, and it will do that for you. I don't think it's going to have enough of an impact that you're going to be excited to use your spell slots on it.
No, I mean, like, this is again, like you said, to get in, grab stuff or whatever, and then get back out. That's 2 third-level slots. That's a tall order. Yeah.
And if you're just like, if you're listening in or something, a familiar does that for free.
And if you're listening to something, I mean, you're still this big conspicuous cloud. That's people are sharing their secrets while that's floating around.
We have missed the whole of all of the fart jokes that are to be made with this at the table. That's a huge component of it. It definitely doesn't make it better, but it is a real thing that happens when someone puts Gaseous Form on their sheet.
Oh, shame on me. I have a reputation to think of. How could Sam have brought this up first? Oh well. Yeah, I think 2 is the right score. I'll agree with that. I don't hate it enough for a 1. That's why it gets 2 for me. All right.
It's inoffensive. It's just not that good.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was Gaseous Form. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Let us know what you think about Gaseous Form down in the comments.
Oh, one other small thing before we go. There is a really funny moment where if a willing creature does, like let's say you touch one of your friends with this and they fly off into the dungeon and they get like cornered by a bunch of monsters, you as the caster may not know that. But I don't think like the target doesn't have the ability to turn this off. You as the caster have to turn it off, which means they might just get beaten to death as a Gaseous Form until they hit 0, which is pretty
funny. Oh, wow. That's some, I guess when the spell ends or when you hit 0, you turn back into your corporeal form, right?
Yep, spell ends.
I was imagining, try to use this to get over a crevasse or something, and being peppered with arrows in the process, and then you're floating, suddenly dead and
like a brick. Just...
Yeah. Oh, that's a sad thought. All right. Again, let us know what you think in the comments. Yes, let us know what you think in the comments. Gaseous Form. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.